Welcome to Odd Socks with Stephen Tikkanen. Today we're going to do a bit of a basic anatomy section on the skeletal system, with skeleton meaning that it's dried. I'm not going to be too concerned with the facial bones or the cranial bones. I'm just going to work from the neck down and explain briefly what each area means, and then we can go into further detail at other times. So let's start. So we have here the vertebrae, and vertebrae simply means that it's jointed. In particular, here we have the cervical vertebrae, with cervical meaning neck. We then have the thoracic vertebrae, and the thoracic vertebrae meaning the armored area. And then we have the lumbar vertebrae, which means the loin. If we continue down, we then have the sacrum, which they believe means that it's sacred. And then at the very tip, we have your coccyx, and the coccyx they think comes from cuckoo. We then have the coxa and the innominate bone, both meaning the same thing, the hip or the unnamed bone. So innominate meaning the unnamed bone, and coxa meaning the hip bone. If we then go to the thoracic area, we can see here that we have ribs, coming from the word rib, so no mysteries there. We then have the sternum, and the sternum means the breastplate of a man. And on the top here we have what's called the manubrium, which is the handle. Then we have the body, and then we have the xiphoid process. And if you have a look, that sort of looks like a sword. We then go out here to the clavicle, and the clavicle means key. We have the scapula, which means shoulder blade. We then have the humerus, which means the shoulder bone. We then have the radius. Radius means the spoke of a wheel. The ulna, meaning the forearm bone. And then we have the carpal bones, or wrist bones. And then we have the metacarpal, which means after the carpal bones. We then have the phalanges, which means little soldiers. From there we go to the lower limb, and we can see we have the femur, with the femur meaning that it's the thigh bone. We then have your patella, which is a special type of bone we'll talk about another time, and that means the front of your knee, but it also can mean a small plate, if you like. We then have the tibia, your shin bone, which can be a musical instrument. We have your fibula, and your fibula is known as a pin bone. We then come down to your tarsals. There are seven tarsals down there, and there are 8 carpals up here in the wrist. We'll talk about those at a later date. We then have the 5 metatarsals, and then again we have the phalanges, which make up your digits in your toes. So as a quick rehab, it's not rehab, maybe I got rehab in my head. A quick overview of what we just did. We have the vertebrae, we have the thoracic cage, we have the sternum, we have the clavicle, we have the shoulder blade, the humerus, the radius, the ulna, your carpal or wrist, your metacarpals, and your digits, your phalanges. We then have your hip bone just in here with a sacrum and a coccyx at the end of your vertebrae. Femur, patella, tibia, fibula, tarsal bones, again 7 of those, metatarsals, and then your phalanges. So we will be looking at different areas. We'll be going through different joints in the human body over time, and we'll be able to cover all of that. If you have any questions, please email me at coach@oddsocks.com.au, and I'll see you next time. Bye.